Welcome, everyone. Welcome, dear speakers. I'm Fernanda Simon, a Brazilian activist, director of Fashion Revolution Brazil, and also sustainability editor for Vogue Brazil. It's a pleasure to be here with this brilliant woman. So today I will be talking to Tricia Carey, who is Director of Business Development Americas and Denim from Tencel Fibers. Mara Hoffman, who is the owner and creative director of Mara Hoffman Inc. Welcome. And Stephanie Benedetto, who is the CEO and co-founder of Queens of Raw. Welcome. And well, before we start the conversation, we have a video from Lindita, right?
Hello. My name is Lindita Jaferi Salihu, and I serve at the UN Climate Change Secretariat in Bonn, Germany. Part of my work is to coordinate Fashion Industry Charter for Climate Action, which is set with the vision to drive the fashion industry to net zero emissions no later than 2050. Business as usual was never a good strategy, not for the environment, not for the climate, not for the fashion industry, not for any sector. The Paris Agreement represents our team strategy, one with a clear goal to limit global temperature rise by the end of the century by 1.5 degrees Celsius. If we don't see significant and sustained emission reductions in the next 8 years, the window of opportunity to keep the planet safe will be closed forever. And if we are to get to a net zero carbon future, then all those involved in the sector, including entire supply chains of production through to distribution, must apply a climate lens to all buying and manufacturing decisions. We know fashion sector can do it. Using creativity and innovation, fashion industry changed to meet market demand when they needed to. They have stayed ahead of the competition. They have anticipated challenges. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce you to an exciting panel discussion titled Innovative by Nature that will look into some of these topics. Enjoy.
So this panel is called Climate Action Innovative by Nature. And I have to say that I'm very honored to moderate it because I truly believe that in nature we can find all the solutions we are looking for. And as a Brazilian, to talk about nature is to speak up for Amazon, for all the forests that have been burned, all the communities, all the indigenous communities, and for all of those who are fighting for life and nature, just because life, it is nature. And well, I also believe fashion is a transformative tool, and the fashion industry must take action urgently. So fashion has to walk in step with nature. So this is why we are here today. And so, to start this conversation, I would just like to ask Tricia about Lenzing, because Lenzing already has a strategic commitment to be climate neutral by 2050, right? And so, what's the company's current contribution to the climate and to Goal 13?
Thanks, Fernanda. It's great to be here today, and wonderful opening and the remarks. For Lenzing, what we've been working on currently is really based off of what we've been developing and setting our goals. And this goes back several years. And like any goals that you're trying to set, you first have to have an assessment, and you have to figure out what your plans are going forward. So it was actually in 2018 that we signed the UNFCCC, where we started to really define a lot of our climate goals. And then it was in 2019 that we had our science-based targets approved. And that process can take quite a long time, and I know that several of your companies are also working through that process. And then it was actually in 2020 when the CDP gave us an A ranking for climate. So those were some of the activities that happened in the past that led us to where we are today, and some of our achievements that we had for 2021. And I'll just highlight 3 of them that I think are most notable. And that's how we set aside an investment of 200 million euros in the next year for our production sites in China and Indonesia, where we can have a climate impact reduction. We also have 4 of our 8 sites are now using 100% renewable electricity from the grid. So anywhere that we can, we're looking to make that impact site by site and look at where we can have reduction. And very proud to say that it was actually the beginning of this year in 2022 that we opened the world's largest lyocell production facility with 100,000 tons of tensile lyocell. And that is using sustainable biogenic energy, making carbon neutral operations for our scope 1 and 2. And that we opened in Thailand in March of this year. So all of these steps that we've had, so it's setting our goals and then moving into action. And we continue to have our CDP ranking. In fact, this year we had a AAA ranking for climate, water, and forestry. So it's really lining up everything. And it's definitely a key focus for Lenzing. And, you know, any way that we can in establishing our goals and working on the progress each year.
It is a very inspiring work. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I would like to ask Mara Hoffman about Mara. Do you believe fashion brands can create a positive impact on the environment? And what examples do you have from your own business?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This is, oh, right, didn't I?
Maybe just.
How's this? Yes. Hi. First of all, thank you so much. This is still wild. And what an inspiring group of people to be sitting with and to hear Tracy. So beautiful. Yes, I absolutely believe that we can make enormous changes within this industry. And there are so many ways to do it. For my company, we only started this work in 2015. So about 7 years ago, and that was when the company was 15 years old. So we spent a big portion of our growing and learning in a more conventional way of running a fashion business. But when we made that shift, like our whole world's changed, and it was enough proof, even in the small initiatives in the beginning, to show that this is a possible path for any brand to take if we could do it, regardless of the size. So some of our activations, I mean, all of our activations have really been led by a very inspired and dedicated team of people that we're an independently run company and have been since the beginning, so we continue to be very scrappy and small, relatively small. So everything has been about learning as we go and kind of that idea of, what aches at you the most, you follow. Like what breaks your heart the most, you go that way. And so you try and figure out from that place, because if you're not inspired by something or you don't feel passionate about it, there will be no consistency. You'll lose interest. So we began and put a ton of focus on our fibers, as Tracy spoke about with her business, and the importance of that. We prioritize our materials and what we try to use. For example, recycled natural fibers, organic fabrics, working with Trisha and her amazing team on innovative fabrics, which is so inspiring because it keeps us in that space of creativity and being able to not feel limited with the same fabrics every season, but the work that they're doing gives us space to run. So the fabrics are huge. Our relationship with our factories and being present with them and choosing who to work with based on how important it is for them to be in alignment with the same goals and reducing their carbon footprint as well. Choosing where we manufacture, where our raw materials are coming from, trying to shorten that shipping. Being aware of that. What else? A few initiatives that are pretty recent for us is an initiative called Full Circle. We built a peer-to-peer platform on our website that gives our customers the option to sell their pre-loved Mara Hoffman pieces to each other. So working on our circularity and giving the things that we make longer life, which is really important, and also being able to invite more people into our world with an easier price point. That is a really exciting one. And our first version of that was a take-back program where we did repairs and reselling of that, and then it grew into Full Circle, which is exciting. We also very recently, well, in 2020, which was kind of amazing, started a climate beneficial collection where the fiber to the final product is all made in the United States, and we're working with a farm in California, a regenerative farm in California that sequesters carbon, which is amazing. There's a lot of things. There are so many initiatives, really. To the smaller things, again, same as Tracy, when you're running a company, what happens within those walls, what happens in your studio space, how you're taking care of what feels like the smaller things, but they're the important things of your day-to-day, how you're in conversation with your team in those actions.
Beautiful. Taking care of who make our clothes, I do believe is the most important. And well done. Mara Hoffman is a good example that fashion can be beautiful and go towards a more sustainable future. And well, now I would like to ask Stephanie, CEO and founder of Queens of Raw, that is a marketplace to buy and sell sustainable and that stock fabrics and textiles. So Stephanie, well, we know that excess production and consumption is a big issue in fashion sector. So tell us more about that and how your own business can help to mitigate this issue.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Benedetto, and I'm the Queen of Raw. And I'm on a mission to solve the world's water crisis. And my focus is fashion and textiles, which by some accounts, although it's controversial, is the #2 polluter in the world of clean water globally. And according to the World Wildlife Fund, this is one statistic that really resonated with me. If we continue at the current pace of textile production, by 2025, 2/3 of the entire world's population will face shortages of fresh water and be exposed to hazardous chemicals from textile production alone. So we're not talking about 100 years from now. We're not talking about 50 years from now. We're talking about today and on our shores. But if you kind of flip that on its head, it also means that fashion and textiles have the power to solve the world's water crisis if we rethink how we do things. So to get into the issue of unused inventory and dead stock, which is what we tackle, every single year, $288 billion worth of unused textiles just sit in warehouses collecting dust or being burned or sent to landfill. And as I'm sure you can imagine, this supply chain waste matters today more than ever. More unused inventory than ever before because of canceled orders, closed stores, missed seasons and collections. And I like to say at that volume, right, waste is not just environmentally irresponsible. This is a CFO issue. And so, as you heard, that's what my company, Queen of Raw, addresses. We built a marketplace along with integrated supply chain software. So anyone, from a student maker, crafter, quilter, to the biggest brands and retailers in the world, can reuse, resell, recycle, and donate all that unused inventory. Keep it out of landfill and turn what would be pollution into profit. And the reason that I know about this problem and why I was inspired by it is my family's actually been in fashion and textiles for over 100 years. In 1896, my great-grandfather came over on a ship from Austria. He landed at Ellis Island, and he settled into the Lower East Side of New York. He was a Jewish immigrant chasing the American dream, and he had to make a living for his family. He came with nothing. So what did he do? He would find materials and supplies nearby, old fabrics and furs and things immigrants had brought over on the ships with them, but they weren't using anymore. And he would repurpose them by hand with minimal waste and minimal toxins, and he sold to local customers. and it was incredibly profitable, successful business. I was truly inspired by him, hearing the stories of how he did what he did. He didn't talk about it as sustainability, but of course, at the end of the day, that's what it was, right? It made sense. And that's how we think about what we're building and what we do. And the final piece I kind of wanted to mention is my why. Why do I do what I do? Well, by reducing textile waste, we've actually already saved over 1 billion gallons of water, and we feel like we're just getting started. It's actually enough clean water for 1.4 million people to drink around the world for 3 years. So I'm doing this for my children. I want them to have clean water to drink, clothes that aren't toxic to wear, and a planet to live on. And I know together we will change the world.
Beautiful. We're together changing. So, Tricia, you have a piece of cloth here. We want to know what is it?
Yes, well, since we are here for fashion, I had to bring something as an example to show. And this is actually how we've been working on bringing our carbon strategy right down to a product level. So in 2020, we launched our Carbon Zero Tencel. And actually, we had some support also from Lucia when we launched that. And it was not easy launching a new fiber and a new concept during the middle of the pandemic when everything was virtual. But we're actually able to produce a fiber that has 0 carbon footprint. And we do this through reduction, engagement with the supply chain, as well as some offsets for where we're at right now and what we need to do to achieve 0 carbon footprint. And we do this actually in a way that we can certify the fiber. So Natural Capital Partners is our certification partner. And it's been amazing to see how this can get out into the market. I know we talked about getting the SDGs out and implementing this and how many seasons we have left to do that. So this garment actually represents a product that's in the market right now. So from our launch in the end of 2020 to where we are now, this jean is from Jack Jones, which is a brand by Bestseller, and they are using our Carbon Zero Tencel. And I think when we look at what's happening here, and obviously this jean isn't using 100%, and they're not claiming that this jean has 0 carbon footprint, but what they're doing is by incorporating some materials into their jean that does have 0 carbon footprint, where we can start to look to lower, where it's progress over perfection. And I think the challenge that I see in working with many brands is that they want to be able to have this ultimate 0 and no carbon footprint. And that's not where we are at right now. So let's take the materials that are available and start to make those steps and start to have that progress. Because when I hear from Stephanie, and I love your story, and it's always great to hear some of your comments, but if that's what your grandfather was doing 100 years ago, and you're now 100 years later trying to look at the solutions, where are we progressing in our industry if we're not moving fast enough and we're antiquated in the ways that we work? And so if we don't use this time now as the decade of action, if not now, when? And let's make that change so we don't go another 100 years. So it's wonderful to hear your story and how that can connect back with the progress we need to make.
Thank you. And well, I would like to Mara again. Mara, do you believe nature can give us the most innovative answers? And give me examples from your own experience.
Yes. So it's funny, I didn't really have this question, but I love this question. 100%. I feel that I had a really privileged experience to get to be in close proximity to nature during the pandemic, and that was one of the very positive things that happened to me during this experience. Was I left the city and I moved into nature, and it was through that experience of walking and initiating conversations with the trees that I live with that I shifted from a space of an intellectual space of the work that we are doing to this more intimate, from like skin to bone kind of understanding of the work we're doing. And I thought I could always say I have this, of course, I love nature, I'm connected to nature, I'm the planet, we have to, all of this fire towards saving something. But after all of these years, it took me to get into my 40s after a crisis to actually be sitting within it and walking within it and having this shift that said, how can I heal this if I don't truly love this? And I've been thinking about that idea that we can't heal something we don't love, and what it actually means to put love onto something, not in a hallmark or a romantic aspect of love, but love through action, love through discomfort, through sitting through those things that tear you apart, and where love steps in there. And so I've been really deeply fortunate to be placed in this situation, and I think it was extraordinarily necessary to put me in that place, because it shifted even in a small how I connect to my own work after all of these years. And so, yes, I think that nature is our ultimate guide. I feel deeply connected to the plants as my teachers, the plants, the animals, as our biggest teachers at this time on this planet. And so following that lead right now is essential. I think it's close to impossible with the level of noise that we're all living with. There's an extraordinarily high volume of noise with what we're actually trying to hold too, with the amount of trauma on a daily basis that we're consuming, that we're part of as a society. And so to actually separate ourselves from that, or find the moment that the willingness to step out of that, the willingness to quiet, is essential to this work, because healing ourselves is our only way out of it, and it begins on a very solo mission. In order to do it for the collective, we have to do it as individuals. So yes, the nature part's huge. If I answered that, I don't know.
Yes, beautiful. I totally agree. In nature, when I say that in nature we can find all the solutions, and studying sustainability, I see that circular economy is nature's, biomimicry is nature's design. So how many lessons we can learn, and you have to learn if you want to live. And Stephanie, I would like to ask you if you believe that we can fix this excess production issue without changing the whole fashion system.
Yeah. It's a great question, because obviously we're all here because we're passionate about change. We believe in change, but I do also believe in meeting the industry, consumers, companies where they are in order to bring about that change. And so when I think about the solution that we're building and the excess inventory problems that we're tackling, I think about people, planet, but also profit. And I think we can't forget to talk about the profitability of this for it to make economic sense for big companies to adopt, for customers to purchase that item. I think there's been this myth for so long that sustainability has to cost you more money to participate. The good news is that by focusing, for example, on a business's waste, you can sell it today, make money, and then take that money and put it back into doing good work in your supply chain. You can pay your workers more. You can adopt more technology solutions. You can use more sustainable materials. And you can do it without your overall CapEx expenditure going up. Now, isn't that, right, the best use case in how you can not only survive everything going on in the world today, but truly thrive? And so to more specifically answer your question, right, when we first started going to brands and retailers about our solution, it was seen as a nice to have, but not a have to have. Fast forward, of course, to today, and make a long story short, right, this has become a top 3 priority for every C-suite to address. And when we go to them, we're not telling them, we're going to make you 100% sustainable from farm to finished good to end of life around again. I mean, that may be the ultimate goal, right, in the vision, but where do you go and what do you do on day one? How do you not get stuck in the mud and not take any action? And obviously our position is starting with unused inventory. Dead stock is a clear place to start today and then you can grow up and down the chain, right, and just do better from there. So, that's really how we like to think about solutions, to get people to adopt change and incentivize everyone to do better.
Amazing. So we still have 5 minutes. I would like to ask your final thoughts, each one of you. Tricia, you first, please.
Yeah, I just think, when we look at SDGs and how we're going to approach this going forward, it all comes down to really the consumerism and the consumption to start with. So how are we addressing that as an industry? How is it always that on Instagram, every next generation person needs, a new outfit in order to really express themselves? How is consumerism really addressed, and what can be done in order to keep materials, to keep garments in circulation longer? That we actually go back to a time where it's garments that we treasure, that garments are something that we pass down from generation to generation, and not have this disposable society that seems to be prospering more, and really have that whole mind shift. So I think, that's where we have to look at, not just around what's happening with climate action, but bringing it back to circularity and collaboration. So the connection among the SDGs, whether it's SDG 13, 12, and 17, working together. And I think, this kind of parallels what you've also been talking about, Mara and Stephanie.
I think everyone's sitting in here because we're all aware that we're all being called to the really tough work right now. And that the comfier we get right now with the discomfort, the easier we're going to get through this thing. I think that within the fashion industry, we have an enormous amount of work to do. I feel inspired by what is happening through legislation and pushing new laws forward to protect those that are most devastated by the injustice within this industry, as well as climate change, who are going to be affected the most. I think that there is a lot still yet to be done, and that we have to find the way to hold at the same time grief and gratitude in either hand, and the gratitude for the potential that still exists. And it's really hard to stay in that potential, I think, when we're in the loop and we're receiving all of the information, but we wouldn't be here if the potential wasn't in front of us, within us right now. And so I think it's keeping ourselves in check in the exact present place and showing up to the work.
Yeah, definitely agree with everything that was said. And obviously, we're here together today in the nature of partnerships. And 2 partnerships I kind of wanted to mention that have been really meaningful in what we did and brought a lot of us in this room that I know together. One was the New York Circular City Initiative. We came together with H&M, Unilever, Cisco, Goldman Sachs, Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and a number of organizations. But the goal was to create a white paper. It is available online to show how many good jobs could be created and how much money could be saved and made by New York City going circular in the coming years. And so the goal is not to, change the laws and slap businesses with millions of dollars in liability on the books. It's to show companies and cities what kind of solutions are available to offset that coming legal liability. So I think those are kind of more the partnerships that we're excited to see come out of this room, and that I know are being worked on. And the other one is, we can do all this incredible work, but if we aren't speaking confidently in the public about what we're doing and communicating that to our consumers, then nobody knows what we're doing. We're holding it close to our chest, and I feel like a lot of companies have been afraid to talk about it, not the ones on this panel who I know are very bold in how they speak about it. It's amazing. But to get everyone to act, they need to be able to speak confidently about what they're doing. And there are some incredible reporting tools and impact measuring tools out there. We spent the past year with MIT building one for the fashion and textile industry, so that by all the good actions a business does, they can report and prove the amount of water, chemicals, carbon emissions, waste, and dollars saved by what they did, but taking it a step further, also giving them not just the record and proof, but the QR code so that their customers can scan that garment and see, you can see at point of purchase, or when you're making a decision about what to buy, the impact that you have by purchasing in that. And I think that level of transparency and communication, it's where we're going, it's accessible, it's possible, and it's how we can all participate in the greater solution.
Thank you so much. Thank you, you all. It was a pleasure to be together here. We keep moving towards a more sustainable future, a more sustainable fashion system, good for people, for planet, for nature, for climate. And we are one, so let's do it. Thank you so much.